In today's video, we're going to be having a look at multiplying and dividing fractions. We're actually going to break this down into 4 categories. Now, as always, we are going to start with the basics and take you through. There are going to be timestamps at the bottom, so you can click on the level that you're most interested in. Let's get going. Right, so here we're going to take 3/4 multiplied by a whole number. You can essentially think of this as 3/4 of a whole something, for instance, chocolate. And you'll actually often see questions that have 3/4 and then the word of and then your whole number. This word of in maths quite often is interchangeable with multiplication. So we're going to use it that way throughout this video. If you remember from our video with adding and subtracting fractions, which I'll link down below, we discovered that the denominator is the one that breaks our something, our whole, into individual pieces. It tells us how much the original was broken into. So we're going to use that. In this situation, we're taking 3/4 of 1. So essentially what that means is we're taking our whole chocolate and we're going to break it into 4 even pieces. That then tells us, okay, we've got 4 individual pieces, and my numerator is saying that I want 3 of those 4 pieces. So we had one whole and we took 3/4 of it. What happens if we have a look at 2 chocolates? Well, pretty much the same thing is going to occur. You're going to take 3/4 of each of them. But now you've got double the amount. So you've got 3 from the one and 3 from the other. If we have a look at this, we've got 6 pieces in total, and the originals were cut into 4 pieces each. But this isn't right. It's not proper. It's an improper fraction. So to fix this, we need to now try and convert it back into a mixed number, which has a whole and a fraction together. To do this, we're going to take our 6 individual pieces and we're going to see how many whole chocolates we can then make. So if we have a look at these 6 pieces, to make a whole chocolate, it requires 4 pieces. So we're going to use an extra piece from the other bar, and now we've made a whole chocolate. So 1 whole and 2/4. Mathematically, what you'll do here is you'll take my 6 pieces and you'll divide it by 4. So 4 can go into 6 once, and there's a remainder of 2 pieces. So this is also the same as 1 whole and 1/2, because there's half a chocolate left. 2 out of 4. Right, so just a quick recap on what a denominator does. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so after that recap, I hope that you realize the denominator is controlling the number of pieces that we're cutting that original whole piece into. If we take it one further, and instead of being a number greater than 1, we make it 1, our whole would look like this. So any whole number essentially can be written with a denominator of 1. So let's go back to the original calculation and apply this knowledge. So now we know that that 2 can actually be written as a fraction as 2/1, and it will look a little bit like this. And can you see something that's happening here? How does the numerator of the answer and the denominator of the answer look next door to the original fraction now that it's been altered? If you have a look, if we multiply the top, we get the numerator's answer. And if we multiply the bottom, the denominators of the original, we'll get the denominator of the solution. Right, so now that we know some of the basic concepts, we can apply this to multiplication of any fraction, even ones like this. So, using what we know, we're going to multiply the 2 numerators together. So 3 times 5 is 15. And then we're going to multiply the 2 denominators together. 4 times 7 is 28. And that's where we can stop with this one. because if we have a look at the numerator and the denominator, we can't simplify it. Which brings us to the next category. Here we're going to do exactly the same, multiply the numerators together and multiply the denominators together. So this will result in 6 out of 40, which is a fraction that can be simplified. Now, when we talk about simplification, we're thinking of a number that can be divided into both the numerator and the denominator. And that looks a little bit like this. If it helps you to think of simplifying fractions by thinking of a number that can be divided into the top and the bottom, that's perfect. And that's the way it's taught mostly. Another way to think of it, and the reason why that works, is if we think of the factors of the numerator and the factors of the denominator and try to use two that have at least one number in common on the top and the bottom. That will look a little bit like this. So here we haven't actually changed our fraction. 3 times 2 is still 6, and 20 times 2 is still 40. But what we learned in our last video is that when a number is the same on the top and the bottom, that's actually equal to 1. So we can cancel 2 on top and the 2 on the bottom, and that's why the simplification works. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. Which brings us to the final category. Here, once again, we're going to use the same method, multiplying the numerators together and the denominators together, which results in this answer. Can you think of a number that can be divided into the top and the bottom? If you said 3, you're spot on. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. Now, I did promise you a method that would help save you time and effort with simplifying large fractions right at the end, like we just did. It's called cross-cancelling. And here, you are applying exactly the same principle as simplifying, but with multiplication, we can also do it diagonally. So if we have a look at these calculations, the 3 and the 6 both have a number that can be divided into them. So we can take the 3 and divide it by 3, so we're left over with 1. And we can take the 6 and divide it by 3, so that we're left over with 2. And now, forgetting that we've already worked out the answer, you can see that if you applied the normal method of multiplying the numerators together and the denominators together, we get exactly the same answer. Right, now to put it to the test. Pause the video here and give it a go. If you haven't yet watched the video on adding and subtracting fractions, that will be linked somewhere around there or down below. And thank you so much for joining us. If this video helped you, please give it a like and do subscribe for more. Until next time, have an awesome day.